Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Rhode Island Small Business Coalition Small Business Live Forum. As always, we're live on Facebook at the noon hour every other Tuesday. So if you're watching this on Facebook Live and you have questions for today's guests, please put them into the comments there. If you want to know more about the Rhode Island Small Business Coalition, it's rismallbusiness.org. And there's the Rhode Island Small Business Coalition on Facebook, as you're probably watching this, and Instagram and things of that nature. And I'd like to now welcome today's guest. We've got some great guests coming up in the next 3 months, so listen for that at the end of the show. But today we have Pawtucket Mayor Don Grebien. Hello, Mr. Mayor.
How important the Rhode Island Small Business Coalition is to our state and especially to Pawtucket. But I want to thank you, Chris, Jen, and Ben for having me on today. So thank you.
Oh, it's great to have you. We have a great bunch of questions. We had a great group of small businesses in Pawtucket send us questions in. So we'll jump right into them because, there's a lot to talk about. And I know having had conversations with you in the past, I know you're never at a shortage for words. So that's great. I always appreciate how open and transparent you are when we talk. So let's dive right in. One of the top questions a lot of small business owners want to know is, what do you think? How would you summarize the city's current and future economy?
So, I think we're, as a mayor who's been here, in my 10th year now, and I compare it to where we were 10 years ago, we are much better, except for what we just went through that nobody expected with COVID.
Of course.
So from a small business, the city of Pawtucket has strived. We have our first commerce director that came on 2+ years ago to focus in on small business. Now, again, when I say that to you, right, COVID blew everything up in a different world for all of us. But I think that what we thrive to do is to be out there in the community, provide as much resources, support, and information as we can. It's very hard, because we're a small community that people expect the mayor and the commerce director to be out there, but we have 72,000 residents and, hundreds of small businesses. I think where we strive to go is, as we get, hopefully post the pandemic, is one thing that came out is, the very diverse community that we have. A lot of our small businesses, as much as we were doing our outreach, we weren't always doing it in multiple languages. So, we got stuck in the routine as government does. So during the pandemic, to our outreach, both in the small business community and the business community, but also into our community, we're trying to get more and more community diversity from languages out there. So we're putting things out in multiple languages. We're working very close with the Hispanic Chamber to bring a person in, that speaks Spanish, focused in the small business community. So it's important why we thrive, it's setting those goals. So I think that small businesses are experiencing, an uptick right now because people are finally getting out, they're seeing it. It comes with, managing that. I think Governor McKee, to his credit, extending the outdoor dining experience helps a lot of those small businesses. So unfortunately, government's more reactionary than proactive, but in this case, we're doing a lot of proactive things.
Yeah, no, that's a great example that just brought up that the bill was signed. I know it was signed a couple of weeks ago, but it was signed publicly yesterday for outdoor dining through April 1st, and that's great to see. Great to know that businesses in Pawtucket are taking advantage of that. What are the biggest issues or problems? let's be blunt.
Yeah, absolutely. No, listen, it's an honest conversation.
Yeah, exactly. What do you see are the biggest problems there? What do you want to try and tackle next?
So what I think we need to do is, liquor is an important balance of a business. It brings in revenue. We have a few businesses, the small businesses that kind of allowing it to get out of hand because they're trying to make up for the business that they missed in those times. So we've had a lot of enforcement issues, some smaller establishments violating some of the ordinances. And it's hard because, the council doing their authority and the administration and the police comes to enforcement. We're really trying to focus in on how do we balance that, right? We know they're violating, but how do we educate them to work with us? So I think some of the challenges are people are looking at it differently. We're all trying to understand it. There are a lot of bureaucracy. We have a small business committee that tries to flush through when we had any new businesses coming in, what the pros and cons are. We have, through the Commerce Department. And we have a couple of businesses who have reached out and who are looking to open up a jazz club, a small restaurant. So how do we flush those out and build partnerships? You know, David, you've been around a long time. You know, you started very young, but been around a long time, and those challenges. So what we really try to do and focus in on is how do we listen? Like, we think we know sometimes, and we get into our bureaucracy, right, but really listening to the businesses. So some of the challenges are understanding. People are still struggling with the PPE to a lot of extent. We're filing in the aftermath, if you will. So we're focused in on that, trying to, how do we get, some dollars into the small businesses to help them through the sustainability of it. And now that it's changing, we were one of the first communities, and we were able to capitalize on the COVID initiative, the dollars that came in, to be able to put we did them originally as loans, and then we worked them off as grants after. So I say we're big enough to be a large government in some ways, but we're small enough to be nimble. And it really is trying to understand what those are. So having said that, we don't have all the answers. We're trying to be as open as we can. We have a great working relationship with the council, and the council will get that grassroots as well as, folks on the street, in our administration. So we try to be as proactive as we can, but more reactive and quick about the reaction that helps those businesses.
Right. So you mentioned those grants. We had some questions about, yep, if you can tell us anything about how those were received, how were they, essentially turn from loans into grants. But then also with the new ARPA funds coming into the city, do you see a portion of those being dedicated to small businesses?
So first, let me say, yes, I do. I think that it's important that we figure out how we do it. Each community is different. We're still just trying to, learn it. There are some communities who, might be ahead of us with doing the public input. The council, myself, and members of the administration have agreed to take a slower approach, not to not support the community. Where the emergency is, we act like we did with the grants and the loans, but really focus in on that long-term sustainability, right? Because we all forget that this is going to be a one-time fix or a one-time dollar amount.
Right.
And so how do we make it more sustainable? So we are looking at a lot of things. We will take the opera dollars. We're going to be putting together a committee. We have some outside consultants we brought in to educate us, to help us through the process, So we're looking at those things. We'll be engaging we have the Northern Rhode Island Chamber, who we do, the Small Business Coalition like yourself, and then we have the Pawtucket Foundation as well, and just small businesses who are still to this day are not involved in the organizations or in the chambers, because of cost perspective. So yes, we are going to be doing those things. We don't have I'll say that silver bullet, for lack of better terminology. We want to do this where it becomes sustainable, where it's not just a one-time fix for the businesses. On the loans that we did, the city's very fortunate. We have a Pawtucket Redevelopment Agency. We also have a Pawtucket Business Development Corporation, and we're able to, where we get somewhat out of bureaucracy. We have a bunch of community leaders, small business leaders that work with the SBA and focus in on how do we make that. So the initial quick story, and I'll fill your time, is the quick story is when those federal dollars came in, just like a community development block grant dollars, we put that out, but it comes with all the federal guidelines and federal strings attached to it, Dave. So at the beginning, at first, we thought it was going to be the normal strings attached where it had to be a loan process. Then as the federal government filtered it out, we were able to transition that to the Pawtucket Business Development Corporation into loans. I'm sorry, from loans into grants.
Into grants,
based on the criteria that was set. So all of those dollars coming in, David, they really are, they're helpful. We're excited about it, right? As a mayor who's been here for 10 years and involved in our community for many years before, it's the first time that we have dollars coming in. So how do we invest them in our small businesses, in our community for that sustainable long term?
No, sounds great. I mean, I like, I mentioned committee for a small business. We had Providence Mayor Lorza on a couple weeks ago, and we of course said to him, we want to see small businesses on those committees. If the Small Business Coalition can work with the city, we've got a lot of members that are in the Pawtucket area. We'd love to have that interaction, because I think actually having a person there with the business in Pawtucket is going to lend a lot of information. Yeah, so thank you. Hopefully we can get that moving and get that going. So big one. A lot of people asked.
Yes,
I'm sure you get asked all the time. What's up with the Tidewater Landing? How's that going? What's the progress?
So, it's exciting, right? So, we've been through the saga of the Poor Sox, and, we didn't want to see him go, But really, it was about the development and the USL soccer and the fortuitous. And I always bring them in, and to their credit, this is a much more bigger, better project for the community as a whole. So the Tidewater project, the fortuitous group is awesome in what they're doing. So like everything else, the bureaucracy sometimes takes a long time. So even during the pandemic, with all the challenges, we were still able to get through a lot of the bureaucracy. So where it stands today, the Planning Commission last week just approved the Riverfront, and the Riverfront Commission as well did the approval on the preliminary plan of the soccer stadium. So we're looking at it in phases. There should be a groundbreaking, or there will be a groundbreaking, I should say, is sometime in September. We're finalizing, or they're finalizing all of the CRMC requirements, the DEM requirements, those type of, the behind the scenes thing. So we're excited. They're raising capital. We've got our partner with the state of Rhode Island and Commerce RI to invest up to, about $40 million into infrastructure. So we're working out those plans. And the goal is to have the soccer stadium and some of the preliminary phase one, which will be some residential on the Tidewater side, and some residential and commercial all tied into it, and opening to kick a ball in 2023. So as much as, it's exciting, again, there were, and not to make excuses, Dave, right? You understand, we had National Grid that owned part of it. You had the state involved, you had the federal government involved, there's opportunity zones. So it's pulling it all together. And as someone who comes from private business like you, it frustrates the heck out of me because it takes too long, but we do everything we can to expedite it so it's not as long. And I think that's why Pawtucket is seeing this resurgence of businesses, because we're trying to flush out the bureaucracy.
Well, that's key, like you just said. I mean, the progress, small businesses want things to happen tomorrow because we can make them happen tomorrow. And, to be able to move things a little faster is always good.
And Dave, one of the things is hard to say, right? I want to make it happen tomorrow, but it is frustrating as heck to get
I know you do.
Right? You know what I mean? And that's the challenge, right? And and I hate saying it, but it's a reality. And so we're doing everything we can. We're bringing the right people in, so the partnerships and the collaboration are important. Yeah.
Fantastic. Well, while we're on the topic of properties, obviously the other big question a lot of small business owners have asked is what anything with McCoy? Any word on anything?
So McCoy is the bigger challenge. Just quickly, when we started this, as you remember, we started the request for a proposal was under the reuse of McCoy, and out of that proposal came the fortuitous development and the Tidewater and the soccer, and all that development. It's over $300 million of investment in the community. So that's what's exciting about it, is this is going to be such a big boom for the city and for our residents to help offset the taxes. Having said that, we started this as a reuse of McCoy. So there are some reuses we've engaged in with a consultant Peregrine, who is managing our property. Because as you know, as of February, the land, it was always the land, it was cities, but everything reverted, all the responsibilities, state stepped aside when the Paw Sox left. Paw Sox left us hanging with a lot of infrastructure issues. So now we have to bring somebody in to property manage that. As part of that, Peregrine is working with us as a consultant to help us as to what is the highest and best use. So we're doing, looking at when I say this, there's no defined answer on this, but what is the reuse? So we've looked at, and we're looking at running numbers on if it were residential, if it was light industrial, what could it be? And the two that keep floating to the top is we have a couple of organizations, Independent League Baseball, looking at it from a development standpoint for a reuse of baseball at the site with some economic benefit and development happening to it. So that's very exciting. So that's working, but we're working on the numbers. We're partnering with the state, right? There's going to be infrastructure dollars versus private dollars. How do we make those numbers work? Because and do we make those numbers work? Right. The other big thing that's floating up to the top is, and the community itself is really pushing, I don't want to say overwhelming. We did an informal poll and started talking about the reuse of doing what I will call integrated high school, where we do one high school and use that as a complex and develop that, because from a city's perspective, Dave, right, that property generates us no revenue as it exists today. Right. So it's non-taxable. So what is the highest and best use to return that? So we've been working with the school committee. Unfortunately, the plan they had for the Shea renovations and Tolman renovations schedule, Shea got put on hold. It got delayed because of the way the proposal was submitted. They were going to do an A-B schedule and shutting down Tolman this season to do all the construction and you in an A-B schedule rotating at Tolman. So what happens is the RIDE denies that request. So now we're working with RIDE very closely to say, okay, since you've denied it, what are our options? How do we get the schools renovated? But it brought this integrated high school with a career and technical piece to the top of the conversation. So we're working very closely. First step is, and I know the school committee is very close and the superintendent, they'll be voting on, again, I'm getting into the weeds of it, because of the dollars that we're giving in our original proposal for Shea and Tolman and the other schools. There was a 5-year usage of that. We had to do all the projects and get the money spent and the high schools upgraded. So they're requesting some additional time. All indications are that they will give us an additional year or two. And that'll give us the next 6 months to determine, a use of if it could be the integrated high school with a career technical. So at the end, David, from a business perspective, it becomes, what are the costs for both and what's the investment and what are the dollars that come in? And so what benefits us as a community, you hear me say it too long, is sustainability. And then what do we turn the other schools into and so on and so forth. So I think the two are floating to the top, but balancing the business because, by allowing some of the schools in the areas they're in, the high schools that we would have, it would create a better business at a district like a Tolman High School for discussion's sake, could be converted, on our waterfront with our bike path to a higher, better use for small businesses, right? Bringing in that mass in the community. So those are the things we're looking at.
Yeah, that would be fascinating. That would certainly be that opportunity in Tolman, like you said. So good luck with it. Yeah, no, I'm sure. I know you wasn't something that you wanted to see happen, but now you're going to make your lemonade out of the lemons. I know.
Absolutely right. That's how it goes. So you figure that out.
Yep. How about let's talk about a positive development. A lot of folks want to know the latest with the train station.
Oh yeah, that's exciting. So it's funny. We all talk about it, right? I've been here, lived in my community the whole life. I was on the council for 11 years and now mayor as well. We've talked about for many of those years. And, my predecessor, to his credit, started the discussion about putting the commuter rail there. Mayor Doyle, God rest his soul. And I was on the council at the time, but the money wasn't there. Collectively with myself, members of the Pawtucket City Council 10 years ago, Mayor Diosa, to his credit, and even Mayor Rivera now, who was the council president, we were able to flush out and get our federal delegation aligned with us, get some of the dollars, the federal dollars to come in. So it's moving along. So everybody that heard for 20 years or so, I'll say 15 or 16 years, hey, it's coming. Now you're actually seeing the fruits of everybody's labor. Going back to the frustrating thing, David, about government takes too long. But the plan is to have the train commuter rail and Director Alvidi, along with Commerce Director Stefan Pryor and the teams focused in. Governor McKee has made it a priority too. So everything's aligning. So you're starting to see that construction. They started doing one of the ramps. So again, people don't see a lot of the work for many years. The last couple of years, it was all on the tracks, doing the retracking of the rail tracks.
Right.
They had to do, and it had to be done late at night, not during the day because of the rail. And so nobody saw that. So it's exciting to see. But we're also seeing a lot of development. We have one of the developers over there, Garfield Spencer, who is purchasing a lot of the old mill building and rehab and doing a great job. Partnering in there, we're seeing people coming in, not only kicking the tires. We have a $40 million investment from Lee Pizer on Dexter Street, which is right adjacent to that. So you're seeing that growth because people are now starting to see it. It's no longer being talked about. Now everybody knows the reality is 2022, fourth quarter, early 2023, the commuter rail will be stopping there, and all depending upon the construction time. So it's exciting.
Nice.
It will be a game changer for the community, though.
Absolutely. And with all those new residents, obviously there's opportunities for small business there. I mean,
absolutely. The transit hub, you're going to have that people coming in, it's going to be tied to not only the rail, but the busing will be tied to that. So the intermodal, the connections will be there. You'll have opportunity, residential, commercial. Another property that had burned down, 258 Pine Street, is out for RFP, looking at what that can be. And, everything's a mixed use, right? And it's all market driven. Residential is the big component right now,
right,
where a lot of the state and federal aid comes in. but there is that community piece. So where a lot of the businesses downtown who have struggled through are in that area, and we see from the commuter rail all the way up to where the Tidewater and the Apex, and I'm sure we'll talk about that in a minute, connecting, is you're going to have the masses in there. So we're trying to bring the folks in there. So these small businesses who have struggled through the toughest times will actually have foot traffic now to help support them, is the goal. But it just takes way too long to get there. But it's exciting.
Well, it takes time, but when it does get there, it's new, it's vibrant, it's interesting, it's exciting for people. So, you got to be patient. As I've learned over the years, patience matters. Well, you brought it up. So Apex, what do you want to say?
So I mean, I have to be careful. We're still in litigation and mediation. We've been having a lot of conversations over the last several weeks. I feel very optimistic that we'll get, I've been saying that for a couple of years. It's very frustrating. Chief Frank Williams, Chief Justice retired, is the mediator. He clearly is making a difference on both sides. So, you're kind of bringing that non-emotional individual into the room, right? That Apex is an important piece to the revitalization of our downtown, right? It's underutilized now. The owners have ideas that are not necessarily aligned with the city, so we're trying to align them in a lot of ways to either build that partnership or take control. And I think we'll get that done. But like I said, if you're looking at it, downtown, that is an integral part of that whole, what we call the zone, right? All the way up until Tidewater. So there has to be connectability. And that's why we're fighting, for lack of better terminology, and pushing so hard to get control, or if not control, to have them working with us in our long-term vision. And I think we'll get there over the next couple of months. And if not, it always goes back to the eminent domain piece, which is our last resort, which none of us like to do. But
yeah, right. All right, so let's move back into a little more about programs in the city and things of that nature. What programs are available for small businesses in Pawtucket that you want people to know about, you want small businesses to know about, so they can come and take advantage and develop there?
So I mean, a couple of things, right? So we have a very active commerce department now, where Gene Boyle, we're increasing a position in that department. There's not enough of resources.
I'm sorry.
No worries, I'll keep going. So that, as much as we're building that department, there are not enough of resources there. So again, I go back to, we're more reactionary than we are proactive. But having said that, we have I'll call it the tool in the Pawtucket Business Development Corporation, who's able to loan dollars out. And, through the new federal guidelines, they're also able to grant dollars. So, people should be calling, and I know the City Hall, go to our website, all the information is there. But what we pride ourselves on is to hold everybody's hand. So if people are reaching out to understand what those small business programs are, we are a very big conduit and have a partnership with Commerce RI, which has become very, very helpful. And again, as much as we want to be in sync with that, we've got the Northern Ireland Chamber, we've got your organization. We're not, right? We do our best. So it's really the squeaky wheel gets the oil. So I need to hear from the community. So what we're doing is we have a lot of grant and loan processes through them. We're doing a lot of social media and online, the Facebook Live type things to promote that. But at the end of the day, I need to hear from those folks, because there are things that we can do. We're partnering with SBA, to figure out what pool of money can come in on these businesses. But as you know, David, you've been, as me as well, has been involved in small business for you. It's very frustrating. These owners don't have the time, right? Because they're trying to survive and they're struggling to get through the day to day. So we're trying to bring those more resources in. And a lot of it, as I said, is cultural. We're bringing more of the Spanish speaking, Cape Verdean speaking folks on to help, because, it is what it is. And we're trying to develop that. But so we're trying to do that handheld, get out to the community, not just, hey, call City Hall, but we're being proactive. Gene Boyle, along with the Hispanic Chamber, is going to be putting I think it's going to be a part-time, then a full-time outreach coordinator, small business outreach, going out to the businesses.
Great.
As much as we do it, it's more through transactions on email, social media. That hands-on is important. And again, at the end, David, it's really trying to make it easier for them, because most of these people, are single or family-owned, right? They're struggling, and I don't mean to keep bringing COVID, but COVID changed the struggles they already had. In some ways, it made us open our eyes. Now we got to get there and give those resources. So we're really trying to provide that. And under the AARP, we need to get a better handle on what else we can do to facilitate that. But we're partnering with a lot of the organizations and more direct partnerships as opposed to just having them in partnership.
No, that's fantastic. And it's easier and easier to communicate as time, as we've seen over the last year. While, yeah, we're getting a little tired of Zoom and things of that nature, and I apologize for the technical difficulties there with my camera, but it's better. It's good. It's good to communicate. It's easier. We can get information out there, especially with social media and things of that nature. So that's great to hear. Is there a single or a best point of contact for?
Yeah. So what we do is so they one of two things, right? You can either go to Jean Boyle, who's our commerce director. Her email is jboyle, BOYLE, at pawtucketri.com. You can call City Hall number 728-0500. She is extension, I believe, 432. You can hit operator when you call the 728-0500 number. I also have some outreach in my office, so, constituent services. So if people aren't sure, they can call us at City Hall. They can email me at dgrebien at pawtucketri.com. But again, our direct number is City Hall, and rather than give the extension because it goes into voicemail, hit operator, hit the 0. We still have a live person there doing that. And again, there are on the website. Our website is, City of Pawtucket, and we have the different links and information out there as well. So, you're balancing through I'll say the newer generation who is all online to some of the old school who still want to be handheld. So we still have it both options.
Oh, great. That's nice to hear. It's nice that a person is actually answering the phone. So let's talk about, we had a few questions about tourism and attracting people to Pawtucket. What do you see there, and how do you think it can be improved, or what sort of businesses could come to town that might be able to help that?
We're doing that exercise right now. So you're sitting there saying, okay, we know what we have, we promote it. We work very closely with the Blackstone Valley Tourism, Bob Billington. Their office is in our downtown. They have a new facility being built in Central Falls for their offices, but we'll have our visitor center in the Peregrine. I'm sorry, in the Pet Food Expert building. Losing my mind. Yep. Right. So we have that there, but we have Slater Mill. So we know our history. So we do that well. So it's the new attraction. So we're rethinking everything that we can do, from doing the Pawtucket restaurant weeks, if you will, the brewery weeks. How do we promote that? So we're building up to and bringing folks together on the tourism to see how, with the new stadium, it ties in with the new commuter rail, right? What we have is what we have, right? We have Slater Mill, we have our businesses. How do I get to engage and prioritize? So we have our Pawtucket Arts Festival that we are back, again, other than COVID is, last year we're back on. So we do the events in Slater Park. We have a great venue in Slater Park, but there's not a lot of small businesses in the Slater Park. So then it's, how do you tie them into, Dave, how do you tie them into going to all these small businesses? So we're going to start bringing in, as part of the federal dollars as well, looking at bringing a committee together and some consultants, and how do we market Pawtucket, let's say 2023 with a new stadium, with a new commuter rail,
right,
as we're doing that, right? So right now everybody's trying to float and keep their head above water, doing everything we can in the community. So through the partnerships, Slater Mill now is a national park. That's going to change the dynamic a little bit as well. So, we're trying to bring some tourism dollars from the state budget to help us as well. So it's working that together. So I think where I'm going with this, David, is you'll see a lot of marketing being done for 2023, 2024, getting to that. But in the meantime, not to walk away from our small businesses that are here, or our community organizations, our theaters, those type of things, is to stronger market them now in a much more conducive way.
Sure. Well, I mean, it's a good draw to get people. Obviously, I run Eat, Drink, Rhode Island, and I try not to make this a show about food and drink, but you've got so many great breweries, so many great restaurants. That should hopefully draw people there, and then there's, they'll disperse to the small businesses around them, hopefully.
Absolutely. And think about just the water alone. That's why the water access is so important, right?
Right.
Our community access, open space. We did a great event, on the 4th of July. We used the McCoy and we tied in with the food truck event, right? It was successful. We're going to be doing another one probably Labor Day. We're working on that now because it was a great way, not only from the food trucks, but you had your brick and mortar businesses who benefited as well.
Exactly.
So you know that there's that spill off that does happen, but it's trying to engage and bring that activity, not just, hey, it's Pawtucket and it's the Slater Mill, but here's where we can go. How do we bring those? So you're absolutely right. There will be those spill offs, but the water is so important as well.
Oh, that's a great point. No, thank you. So Ben, do we have any questions on the Facebook chat there for the mayor?
Hey everybody, we do. So let's see. We have a question here. Are there any available grants for behavioral health care? We're right on Main Street, Pawtucket, and would benefit from any available grant assistance.
So we're looking at that right now. We're changing our model, like in our police department as well, social, emotional, and behavioral health. Clearly, that is a struggle right now that we all have. It's always been there, but even more so now with COVID. We all have our personal. So best bet is to call my office at 728-0500 or email. You can Wilder Arbolita, who's in my office, who's my Deputy Director of Administrations, and we'll focus that in for them. Just call the 728-0500 number. 281 is the extension, or email Will Arbolita at PawtucketRI.com or Grebien at PawtucketRI.com. We are doing more. We're doing a lot with family services, into the community. We just partnered a Gold Team, so we understand that we need to do more, but there could be grants and some support. A lot of the things we do is not necessarily direct grants. I want to work with this organization or company, I should say, in Pawtucket. But a lot of what we try to do is having them partner with us in a collaborative way that I can give them some funding through the partnerships we're doing. Grants are very difficult, but we're working on those things and we're looking at through the federal dollars. So.
No, that's fantastic to hear. And is there another one, Ben?
There is.
Great.
How is the Pawtucket West restoration? Pawtucket West. I was worried that I was going to mess up the name of the town again.
No, you did it. You did it right.
Thank you. How is the Pawtucket West restoration going?
So I believe, right? It's funny, Kim and Ben. So I'm thinking she means the Shea High School because it's Pawtucket West, right? Some call it Shea. So as I mentioned earlier, there's a request or going to be a request from the school department. So let me step back for a second. They were supposed to be doing the renovations this September, but because of the denial from RIDE, they've asking for the extension to do the renovations sometime next year. So they put it because what happened is they were not able to do an in-school construction. So that's why they wanted to do the AB model out of Tolman and weren't able to. So now that plan is being reworked. So there'll be nothing happening. The children will be going back to school at Shea, to the best of my knowledge, on September timeline or late August. And we'll be working on a plan. And we're also looking, as I said earlier, Kim, David, and Ben, we're looking at it as an integrated high school with career technical that may change that pathway. But we've got to go out to the community. We've got to get approval for the bonds. So there's going to be a community discussion. But the first step, and that should happen late August, early September, after the school committee requests their extension on the SHAPE plan. So hopefully that answers the question in a long-about way,
Oh, thank you. Anything else, Ben?
Nope, I don't think so.
All right. Well, thank you to our Facebook viewers for those comments. Obviously, this will be archived on Facebook, so if you're not watching live right now, you can watch it anytime. And Mr. Mayor,
yeah,
do you have anything you wanted to address before we go?
And I don't want to keep you going, but the only other thing I think that's important we've talked about, right, and what we try to strive ourselves on is being accessible. And I know it sounds cliche, go call City Hall. We're thriving on that. But one of the things that we didn't recognize is we talk about our economy and our arts and the Armory district, which we have all these districts, so important. And again, as we talk about the futures, how do we bring them, right? Commuter rail is the exciting thing, is going to bring activity in, but we have our arts and entertainment district. We have all of our reuses of our mills who have small businesses, right? That sometimes we forget of small businesses because they're artists, right? But they are small businesses.
Yep. And
they make our community strong and thrive. So we are working very closely with a lot of the different organizations as well to try to make sure that they have level funding so they can survive another year or so. And then how do we capitalize on that, and again, the other big thing is making sure that we don't market ourselves out from a price perspective, right? You know, we pride ourselves on being more accessible and in between, you know, Boston and Providence, and we need to keep it that way, right? You know, the market itself, I mean, it's crazy. You look at we had the state required a home appraisal or assessed value. It is unbelievable, the assessed value of these properties in Pawtucket. And so we're putting some affordable housing groups together to take a look at how we make sure that we're managing those type of things. Our arts group, we want to make sure that we maintain them and support them. So at the end of the day, David, it's important. I know, again, that we are much better than we were 10 years ago on the technology. You know, in the less year, right? Who would ever thought we'd be having these type of meetings, right? You know, and so there's a lot more accessibility. So the best thing I can say to the folks is please take advantage of it. It might not be perfect, but rather than just say it's not easy, I can't, give it a shot. Call, email, go onto the internet, go on to these type of, you know, the different Facebook chats and do the different organizations, do that outreach, ask the questions. And it's our job as government, if we don't have the answer, to find it out, but point you in the right direction. So again, just as a community as a whole, I didn't mention the small business groups, you know, the artists, so I wanted to mention that, Dave.
No, it's fantastic. Yeah, the arts is, obviously single owner operators are the majority of small businesses. So that's a great point. Thank you. Well, Mr. Mayor, I really appreciate you taking the time to talk to us today. Everyone, give a virtual round of applause for Pawtucket Mayor Don Grebien. Really appreciate his time today.
All right, thank you, and be safe. I appreciate your time, David. Talk to you soon.
You too. Take care. I apologize again for the technical issues with my camera. Well, I'll straighten that out, but I wanted to let everyone out there know that our list of guests for the next 6 weeks is really fantastic. So please watch us live every other Tuesday at noon. The next one on August 10th, we'll have Congressman Cicilline. After that, August 24th, Johnson Mayor Policina. On Tuesday, September 7th, Senator Whitehouse will join us. Tuesday, September 21st is Cranston Mayor Hopkins. Tuesday, October 5th is Congressman Langevin. And then on October 19th, Speaker of the House Shikarchi will be joining us. So we've got a full slate of great elected officials that really want to hear your questions about small business. So please remember to send those in. You can send them directly to me if you want at small business. I'm sorry, that's not the one I'm using. info@eatdrinkri.com. The Rhode Island Small Business Coalition is rismallbusiness.org. Please check us out there. We have tiered memberships. There is a free membership, and then we also have a couple of pay memberships for more features. So please check out rismallbusiness.org. And again, share this video. Let your folks out there know that we had this great interview with Mayor Grebien, and our other videos are still archived on Facebook. So please share them. And thanks very much for watching. Take care.